UFC Vegas 20 happening this Saturday. The card is pretty nice. Good fighters and good fights to look forward to. Prelims and main card. There's going to be 7 fights on the prelims and 5 fights on the main card. Many great prospects, many great veterans, and a lot of stakes for the main and co-main event. The winner of the main event is probably 1 fight away from a title shot, so it definitely holds a lot of stakes. And in the co-main event, could Krylov derail another hype train after beating Johnny Walker? Now he's facing Uncleave. Or is Uncleave on a fast track to a title with this first win over a top 10 opponent? While scouting out the card, I would have to say the best fight of the night is going to go to Pedro Munhoz versus Jimmy Rivera. Fight of the night pretty much means what's the best technical fight, the most skilled fight on paper going into Saturday. The banger of the night, the most explosive, exciting fight, is going to go to William Knight versus Alonzo Menafield. This fight is 1 punch away from being over. Some of the most explosive fighters to ever compete in the light heavyweight division. The prospect of the night is going to go to the debut of Ramazan Kuramagomedov, undefeated 8-0 and a spectacular grappler. He's going to have his hands full when he fights a veteran in Alex Oliveira. No easy fights coming into the UFC. And the fighters of the night, the 2 guys that most are looking forward to, are of course Magomed Ankalaev, who's the best up-and-coming fighter of the light heavyweight division right now, looks relative unstoppable, and then you also of course have Ciryl Gane. Pretty much mimics that, but in the heavyweight division. He is 1 fight away from a title shot. But the first fight we're going to look at is Pedro Munhoz versus Jimmy Rivera. This is a perfect number 8 versus number 9 for the bantamweight division. They're both doing very similar in their careers right now. Pedro Munhoz is currently on a 2-fight loss streak, losing a split decision to Frankie Edgar and losing to top contender Aljamain Sterling. Before that, he was on a 3-fight win streak. Jimmy Rivera is coming off a win over Cody Stamann, and that comes after a 2-loss streak to the champion Petr Yan and the number 1 contender Aljamain Sterling. He has only lost to the absolute top guys of the division, Petr Yan, Aljamain Sterling, and Marlon Moraes. And these 2 guys have fought in the past. Pedro Munhoz has lost to Jimmy Rivera by a split decision before. This is way back in 2015, but to be honest, they haven't changed too much ever since. Pedro Munhoz still attacks with the same kind of pattern: right calf kick, lunging left hooks, and big right overhands. The thing he found in the Jimmy Rivera fight that was successful was an in-tight elbow whenever Rivera came in on him. Even though Rivera has a big reach advantage, he tends to just go to the body and get in close. By dropping his level so low and attacking that kind of short range, he left himself open for the elbows. But for Jimmy Rivera, he found a lot of lead leg kicks. For Jimmy Rivera though, he was finding a lot of inside leg kicks, knocking off the balance to find left hooks as follow-ups or even right uppercuts. His right uppercut specifically was finding home every single time because Munhoz, whenever he defends on shots, he ducks his head and covers up. He got stunned in the fight because of this. 4-ounce gloves, the punches get around the guard very easily, and the speed that Rivera strikes at is always going to be a problem for Munhoz. Munhoz is definitely more powerful, so he's always going to be on time to land some big shot and hurt Jimmy Rivera. But when you saw that first fight, the only time he really caught Rivera cleanly like that was when Rivera was trying to find the knockout or winging some big punch. When he stayed technical, Rivera was taking over the fight. His speed was too much, his combinations, specifically his volume, was crazy, and that hasn't changed too much. Their styles are relatively the same. In fact, Munhoz is attacking with a lot more power shots than ever before, which I think he will get him caught again in this fight, but I'm definitely not rooting out Pedro Munhoz. He can end this fight at any given moment. Big right hand or the guillotine in case Rivera wants to take it to the ground. So my prediction is I'm going to go with Jimmy Rivera and I'm going to go with a decision win. And then we go to the co-main event. Nikita Krylov versus Magomed Ankalaev. I am super excited about this fight. This is going to be a fun fight. 2 huge light heavyweights. Southpaw versus orthodox. A lot of kicks are going to be thrown in this, especially from Krylov, who has some of the best kicks in this entire division. His kicking flexibility is so overlooked. Probably the best traditional kicker in this entire division. And the opposite stances is going to open up that right kick even more. When you go back and watch Ankalaev fight another kicker that is Paul Craig, there were a few moments where those kicks got really close for Paul Craig, and Ankalaev was forced to reach in for a lot of his punches, especially that left straight, and he could be open to a counter shot from Nikita Krylov. I don't think Krylov is going to take this to the ground. He's excellent with his submissions, but he does not have the best takedowns. He had a very hard time taking out Johnny Walker, even though Walker was gassed out in the fight, and Magomed Ankalaev has insane takedown defense. He's purely the better wrestler and much better with his hips. He's also the better puncher. He has decent kicks as well. He's a better counter puncher. He has way better timing. When Krylov attacks with his hands, he really opens himself up. He's so vulnerable moving forward with his hands. He tends not to do it too much unless he's fighting a guy that he knows he can shoot it on after throwing his wild punches. But against Uncleave, he can't really do that, so he's going to play the distance game a lot with him. And I don't know how that's going to fare for Krylov because there's going to be a lot of leg kicks getting thrown at him as well, taking away the elusive footwork that many guys in this division don't have. So my prediction for this fight, I'm going to go with Magomed Uncleave. But it is light heavyweight. If he somehow gets Uncleave to the ground or Uncleave takes him to the ground, there is a big possibility for a submission win, and that right high kick is something that's going to be very dangerous. But I'm going to go with Uncleave, and I'm going to go by a second round TKO. And then we go to the main event. Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Ciryl Gane. Such a suspenseful fight. Jairzinho Rozenstruik has some scary power, but he's very patient. Not only just patient, he's a little bit too patient. He creates so many openings for himself to catch the opponent, but he just doesn't take them at times. He likes to over-download data, unless you push the action on him and he's forced to counter you, such as when he fought Francis Ngannou, although it didn't play out that well for him. He did catch Ngannou, the guy's just made out of adamantium or something, and he's done it against Andrei Arlovski, knocked out Ellen Crowder. If you push the action on him, he is going to attack you back. But if you're standing back a little bit like Ciryl Gane will do, he's a lot less menacing. But that's perfect for Ciryl Gane because Gane has far higher output, way more volume, he's much longer, and I believe he has the wrestling and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu advantage. Do not be surprised if Gane actually shoots in for the takedown and starts working that game over Jairzinho Rozenstruik. The guy has a lot of submissions in his career, and he's pretty clean with a lot of things he does down there. But the thing about Ciryl Gane is, he's powerful, but he doesn't have the same kind of power Rozenstruik does. He attacks like a sniper, but every time he lands a punch, it's not this lights out knockout that you are probably anticipating. And fighting a guy like Rozenstruik, who has an insane chin, I think Rozenstruik is probably going to take a lot of those shots and potentially drag Gane into a firefight, which I think Gane will lose, absolutely. Rozenstruik is going to have leg kicks to his advantage, damage the movement and look for check left hooks, and also establish a jab on Ciryl Gane as he moves forward and cuts off the cage from him. The problem with that is Ciryl Gane always switches stances. He's never in one stance, so the leg kicking damage is probably not going to be as significant or effective as one would probably think. Because of that, the damage is going to be mitigated a bit, and not only that, it's going to deter Jairzinho Rozenstruik from throwing leg kicks depending on the stance, right? Especially if Gane takes a southpaw stance and tries to get on the outside foot just to measure and push Rozenstruik backwards. There's an opening for Rozenstruik to connect on him with a left hook if he does that, but what I will say is Rozenstruik is not the fastest guy with his right hand. His left hand is extremely quick, but when he loads up on that right hand, it's very easy to see coming, and I think Gane will be able to see that right hand coming at him, which tells you that switching stances for Gane is going to be hugely successful in this fight. There's going to be body kicks from him, a lot of jabs, but where I do get a little bit scared for Gane is if he throws uppercuts, because when he wings up uppercuts, he does expose himself a lot. He drops his other hand and he loads up on that punch greatly. He could potentially get countered badly for throwing an uppercut, and that's what makes this fight very hard to predict, because they both have things about them that can get him knocked out or taken to the ground. I will say that Gane has more areas of winning this fight. He has more ways to win here. He mixes up wrestling with striking. It could be a whole different fight than a lot of people anticipated, but if he sticks to the striking game and tries to prove something to everybody, throw some wild punch and gets knocked out for it, that is a likely thing to happen as well. So if I have to pick a winner in this fight, it's always hard to predict a heavyweight fight. I'm gonna go with Jairzinho Rozenstruik. That doesn't mean I'm sure that Rozenstruik is going to win. Ciryl Gane can absolutely win this fight, but I'm going to slightly lean towards Rozenstruik. I think his counterpunching might get him the victory in this one. Gane will throw heavy and get in close on his opponents and tries to clinch up. There's a huge possibility that Rozenstruik connects a counter left hand on him and drops him. That patience can hurt, or it can help Rozenstruik. It depends how Ciryl Gane approaches this fight. So I'm going to go with Rozenstruik. I'm going to go by a third round knockout. But let's look at the betting odds on this one. So I think a lot of these are very fair. Some will probably think that Alexander Hernandez is a little bit too much of a favorite. He has a chance of getting submitted in that fight, and the kicks from Moises are going to be a bit of a problem because Hernandez can't really take him to the ground without being threatened. I do think Hernandez is going to win, but 2-1, maybe a little bit high. And then there's Ciryl Gane, who's almost a 3-1 favorite. I don't agree with this. This is the one I absolutely don't agree with. It makes sense that he's the favorite. I can see him as the favorite. I can agree with it. But 3-1? I think that's built off a lot of hype. I think the hype is greatly influencing how much of a favorite he actually is. So I would say the safest underdog in this fight is Jairzinho Rozenstruik. The juicy underdog is probably going to be Ashley Yoder, biggest underdog and definitely not out of that fight at all. And probably the most sure win will be Magomed Uncleave. So that's the end of the predictions, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to thumbs up, drop my content, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.